What's up, everyone? Welcome into Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Anthony Witrado as we recap the Dodgers sweep of the Mets earlier this week. And Anthony, the question I want to ask you is, it's a 3-game series. There wasn't necessarily a ton of huge individual offensive moments, but for people that were concerned about the Dodgers offense, I want to talk through whether or not we have any degree of confidence that the Dodgers have figured this out. Yesterday's game, they scored 10 runs on 16 hits. Some key guys got some big extra base hits. So before we dive into the nitty gritty, when you hear the question, is the Dodgers offense back? What's your response?
I thought that the overreaction to them not hitting or scoring enough the last, 10 or so days, however long it's been, 13, 14 games or whatever it was probably a little overblown. It's part of the ebb and flow of a long season. And this offense is just too deep, too good for that to kind of be who they are. It was a little bit of a lull. I will say, when they put this lineup together, I was having these by myself conversations where it was like, they wouldn't have those kinds of valleys because there was just too many of those guys, too many good all-star caliber hitters, where they wouldn't let it slump like that. Now they'd be down or whatever, but I didn't think that they would be, so bad that they would go on like a 5-game losing streak, let's say.
Yeah.
And I was proven wrong, but you know what? I mean, it's kind of baseball. I was probably dumb for thinking that in the first place. I was also kind of being like, man, maybe they'll go through the entire season without getting swept because the rotation is deep and the lineup is deep. That was fool's gold. Also, I'm glad I didn't make that bet anywhere. But I just think that we probably just kind of blew it out of proportion when they were struggling, because that's what fans do. And when a team has expectations the way the Dodgers do this season, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're just not used to it, right? Like, we're not used to looking down at the bottom of the order and seeing 3 or 4 guys that have batting averages that start with a 2 if we're lucky in that category. And for it to happen over an extended stretch, again, a 5-game losing streak, even for a team like the Dodgers, might be quote unquote normal, but it's still not going to feel normal in the moment. Let me give you 2 sort of pieces of evidence or reasons, I guess, for optimism in my sense. One of them is not rational at all. I'm going to say that up front. The other one I think is rational. So the first one, not rational at all. I talked about this on the post-game show on Tuesday. This was game 2 of the doubleheader. The Dodgers win that game 5-2 game 1 of the doubleheader. They win that game 5-2 in extra innings. It takes place in the top of the 8th inning. The Dodgers are down 2-0. And Jason Hayward singles to right. Pages grounds out. Hayward's the force out at second. So Pages is on first. Then Mookie Betts comes up and he hits a ground ball to third base to Brett Beatty. And it looks like a tailor-made double play. Dodgers are going to be done. They're going to be out of the inning, and it's going to be 2-0 Mets going into the ninth. Instead, Beatty goes to flip it to his hand and completely drops it. Both runners are safe. Ohtani grounds out. Freddie Freeman slaps single through the left side. And all of a sudden, it's a 2-1 game. And I'm thinking to myself, irrationally, those are the types of moments that when a team is in a slump, when guys are down and believing that nothing good is possibly going to come from their next at bat, I feel like those are the little moments where you start to believe, hey, maybe our fortunes are turning. Well, fast forward to the 9th inning of that game. Dodgers now down 2-1. Teoscar single, Lux singles, and then you've got Chris Taylor, Jason Hayward, and Andy Pages up. 3 guys that no Dodger fan had any degree of confidence in that moment to get the job done. And yet Chris Taylor lays down a perfect bunt. And not only does he get Teoscar in to score, but Ottavino mishandles the play. There's nobody covering first. And I just watched those 2 things happen, Anthony, and I thought to myself, there's no chance the Dodgers are losing this game. Like, you just don't lose games where those 2 big plays go your way. Of course, the game goes into extras. Mookie Betts breaks open, gives the Dodgers a lead in the top of the 10th on the first pitch. And then 2 batters later, Freddie Freeman scores, and it's 5-2 Dodgers, and that one's a wrap. So that's the irrational reason. Here's the second reason I'm somewhat optimistic. Not just 18 runs in their final 21 innings, but it's how they score it. Freddie Freeman. Everyone's super worried about Freddie Freeman. Hits a home run in that game. That's a huge one. Comes back, goes 3 for 5 with in the second game there. And then you've got, 2 for 3 in the second one. But then you've got Will Smith hit a home run. Miguel Vargas hits a home run. You fast forward to the third game of that series. You've got Vargas with a double, Hayward with a triple, Hayward with a homer, Will Smith 2 homers, Ohtani hits a homer. Like, these are all the guys. Think about all the names I just mentioned of guys who got a big hit. Miguel Vargas, a couple of big hits for a guy who hadn't had any of them, right? Jason Hayward, a triple and a home run. So I just think about all of those guys, and I know I'm ranting here, but all of those guys, when I think about the irrational, hey, some luck started to go their way, and then the rational of, man, if Ohtani's confident and Smith is confident and Freeman is confident, and oh, by the way, Rojas continues to hit, Hayward is confident, Vargas getting a little bit of swagger back. That's the reason why I'm not trying to overreact to like a 2 or 3 game sample size. But if there were to be a turnaround, I feel like this is what the start of it would look like. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think, I don't think the first part of it's that irrational. Because it's like any other sport, right? It's like basketball, it's like the NFL, where if you're beating a team, you kind of want to step on their throats, especially when they're a good team. Because what do they say? You can't give these guys life, right? Like that's an old sports cliche. And if the team that you're playing is good and you're winning, and they, in basketball, they go on a little 8-0 run, or in football, you kind of give up a touchdown where, you're playing sort of touch tackle football. Or in baseball, something like this happens, that team builds on that, and they are so talented that that's kind of the only sort of opening that they need to really get the snowball going.
Yeah.
A week ago, that Chris Taylor bunt, because he popped it up. I've heard people say it was a great bunt, and I think my dad said that too, and I didn't say anything, but I was like, it was a terrible bunt, I thought, because if you have a little more of an athletic pitcher on the mound or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that ball gets caught. Maybe it turns into a double play, and now we're all over Chris Taylor for a terrible bunt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, or, but those are,
it was functional. It was functionally productive, but not, it wasn't textbook. No, but Tom Mansky is not taking a video of that bunt and then putting in his next video with Fred McGriff. All right.
For sure. But like I said, a week ago, that was the kind of play where the other team would have made the play, turned a double play or something like that, or on the ground ball, it's a routine double play. And then, all the life is kind of sapped.
Yeah.
Now you get a little opening there. Guys start to feel a little bit better about themselves. They come into today where the offense wasn't great for a lot of the game today either, or I'm sorry, for yesterday's game, but then they explode. And then you start to see some of the big names hit. The bottom of the order continues to produce in that series. And then you go, okay, maybe they're back on the rails here. And, again, for a team that's that deep and that good offensively, doesn't take a lot to put them back on.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I do want to say this, because I already know what the first comment's going to be. It's the Mets, guys. Relax. The Mets stink. And who cares? And that's a totally fair point. You're totally justified in writing that. But I do want to point this out. The Mets are middle of the pack, actually, pitching wise. They're 18th in ERA in Major League Baseball. But at home, all 3 of these games were played in New York. At home, the Mets have the 3rd best ERA in Major League Baseball. So I'm not trying to be out here and act like this was the Philadelphia Phillies that the Dodgers beat. Okay, it's the Mets. You got to start somewhere. They have the Rockies coming next. They have the Pirates coming after that. So it's a nice little stretch for the Dodgers here. But I don't think this was like the worst pitching staff in the history of Major League Baseball that they got this off of. The bullpen, a couple of those relievers that they were able to scratch some runs across against are guys that have been pretty successful this season, Ottavino among them. And so I don't know. Again, I think this is just like, I'm not saying the Dodgers are back offensively. I'm just saying, like, I'm planting the seed that, hey, if they string together a couple more of these games and some of these key guys get going, then it's kind of watch out territory for, I think, the rest of the league, because once the Dodgers get just 2 or 3 of these guys going, forget 5 or 6, it's things could get ugly for the teams that they're having to play.
Yeah, and it feels like this is sort of similar to what happened before when they went on that sort of extended stretch of good ball, where I think it kind of, I forgot where it got started, but it was like, that pitcher wasn't that good, or that team wasn't that good. Let's wait. And then they go on and they sweep the Braves, and then they go on that stretch where they were clearly the best team in baseball, and they looked like what we expected them to look like.
Yeah,
and they followed. They eventually followed that up with the 5-game losing streak and all of that stuff, but. That goes to say, look, this is the big leagues. I don't care where you get your food from, as long as you're getting it, it can get contagious real in a hurry. And we've seen it already in this short, small sample size of a season where feasting on some of the bottom dweller teams or bottom dweller pitchers sort of catapults you into bigger things, and you beat really good teams and really good pitching later on down the road. So, I don't think it's absurd to say like, okay, this could be the start of the next run here, because I think it could be.
Yeah. Look, 16 hits against anybody with 4 walks to go with it is no joke. And by the way,
the other thing too, Jeff, and
Yeah.
before you read the rest of that stuff off, and that what you just said about the hits reminded me of, it was getaway day in New York, like
Day
won
off
the
tomorrow.
first 2 games of a doubleheader the day before, and it was like, we can get out of here with the series win, and we can sort of coast through this one and get out of here. They did not do that. Again, the offense wasn't there the entire time, but it was there enough to keep them around, and then obviously with the pitching, and then they explode later in the game. That's the sign of a team that's just not kind of cashing in. They're coming, and they're coming for your throats. And when you have a team like that, it's because I think that they understand what's really at stake here in the long run. And I don't think that's lost on them. I don't think they're giving away giveaway days or things like that when the series is already won.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was going to say 16 hits and 4 walks. 10 of those hits and 2 of those walks came from the bottom 4 spots in the lineup. The Dodgers had 16 hits and 10 runs on a day when Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman went 0 for 8. So just to put that in context, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman go 0 for 8, and you get 16 hits on top of it. Those are the types of days that I think start to build. I like the snowball analogy. The snowball is not big enough to be afraid of yet coming down the mountain, but let's just say it's starting to build up some steam. So let us know if you think we're crazy, if you think we're jumping the gun here, if the sample size is too small, the Mets aren't good enough. Totally fair. The same will be true a week from now when they've beaten the Rockies and the Pirates and maybe scored some runs. So we might have to wait a couple weeks to see if this is legit. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you folks joining us here again. This is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. Check out DodgerBlue.com. Check out DodgerBlue1958 on social media. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, and Google, check out the DodgerHeads podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. As always, go Dodgers.